think I'll go first because I've seen the other side of the coin, where there were times when we used to walk onto the set not knowing what dialogues we are going to say and what's going to happen that day. But today, of course, when we walk in, everything is planned. Everything is like from how your hair is going to look to what you're going to wear to what you're going to say. I think in today's day and time, it's much more organized. It's much more streamlined. And it's always a pleasure to walk onto the set. There are no, other thoughts that are on your mind saying that what's going to happen today. We know exactly what's going to happen. And that's a lovely feeling to have when you walk on the set. Deepika, when we used to work before, there were times when we were on the set, but we didn't have our dialogues ready. And there used to be a writer on the set, busy writing the dialogues, and says, okay, what is the dialogue? 2 minutes. Abhi likh rahe hain. Just give me 5 minutes more and it's going to get done. And we are like, okay, whatever. And he's written the dialogues, and you look at the dialogue, it's like a 1-page dialogue. And I'm like, oh my God, is this what I'm going to say? All this? He says, yeah. Yehi bolna hai, madam, kya hai isme? And we used to just mug it up, and just everything used to be very, very spontaneous right there on the set. And then we used to rehearse for it a little bit. And
not just one film a day, but there have been times where you jumped multiple sets in one day.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. But that was a norm at that time. We used to do more than just one film at a time. We used to do, I remember in 1 year, I think I had done 12 films. And yeah, today, like, it's unimaginable. It's like, oh my God.
I did 4 at a time. I thought that was a feat.
Yeah, but it used to be like, go to the set, 7 to 2 on one set, 2 to 7 on another, and 7 to 2 on another set. So we work like that. And the funny thing is, the song that everybody loves from Beta, which is Dag Dag, was shot like that. It was shot from 7 to 2. That used to be my last shift, the third shift of the day, which I was shooting 7 to 2, and that's how, and it just was, chalo chalo jaldi karo kind of a song. But
when did you sleep?
Yeah, exactly. We hardly slept, and yet we had to look good on the set.
I know.
And look pretty, and everything. So it used to be a pressure. But today, I think
no under eyes.
No under eyes, exactly. And I don't know how we managed. Really, when I think about it, I look back and I say, how did we manage to do that? How did we do it? But I think it's just the spirit of what you're doing, the excitement of being on the set, because I loved my profession, just like you love yours, which is the same profession, but she also, I think, loves what she does, and that keeps you going. You tell me your experience. I mean, you have, worked in a different environment from the beginning, but did you kind of catch the tail end of the first?
In spite of that, I think that in spite of having worked now in the last couple of years, even within that slightly smaller time frame, I can feel how things have changed over a period of time. And I remember being, like we were discussing the other day, I remember being one of the first few actors. There was only me and another actor. We were the first two to have an agent. Mm-hmm. And it was completely unheard of. And there were times when directors and producers would refuse to meet us if we came with an agent, because I don't think we were, as an industry, we were not used to this term agent.
You were used to the term secretary.
The secretary.
Yeah.
And
right.
It was very different. So I don't know what it might have been like for you, but then there was, in the last 2 or 3 years, I've been doing 3 films a year, 4 films a year. And so I can't even begin to imagine what you must have gone through doing 12 films at a time and jumping between schedules
and remembering what your characterization is.
Remembering your lines.
Yeah, exactly. And remembering who you are for that particular movie, right? Otherwise, you will suddenly change your character and you're behaving like someone else.
Do you forget who you are in the process at some point? Did you ever get time to sort of step back and say, this is who I am. These are the characters that I'm playing, but this is who I am. Did you ever get that moment to yourself?
Well, Deepika, very frankly, I didn't have time to think. All I thought about was my characters on the set, and whatever when I went home, I used to sleep, catch up on whatever I had missed out on. So all we knew was going from one studio to another and just working, just working all the time. But we didn't think we were doing anything different because that was the norm. Everybody was doing the same thing. And it was not as if I did something extraordinary. Everybody was doing it. And so, but I did come to a point when I thought, that's it. I don't want to work like this anymore. And I did Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. And I had so much fun because that is the only film I concentrated on.
And you were fully there.
And I was fully there because we needed those kind of days for that film. We needed days which were longer, not coinciding with any other dates that I had given. So we had given them like exclusive dates. And when I did that movie, I really, really enjoyed myself. I really felt that, that I was in it, I was with it. And that's when I decided that that's it. This is not how I'm going to work anymore. I will do a few films at a time, and that to work on one film at a time.
We don't know the films that you did together, but do you feel like, did the quality suffer at all, or do you feel like
No, because whenever, I'm made that way. Whenever I'm on the set, I give it my all. I cannot say, okay, this character is not very big, it's okay, I'll just sleepwalk through it. Somehow it's not my personality to do that. And because I love what I do so much, I would feel bad if I did that. I would feel guilty if I did that. So for me, it was like, always on the go, always, giving it my best.
And then you tasted blood, and then you can't kind of go back to working in that manner, or in that
very true. And then once I did Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, I was like, no, I want to do, even if I do like you did 4 films a day, in a year, I wanted to do that and concentrate on one film at a time. Yeah. So so that was how we went. But how about you? When you did like 4 films that year, did you really feel like, oh my God, what's going on, kind of? Because nobody does that anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel it took a toll on my health. I feel it took a toll on my relationship with my family. And again, there's no one to blame but myself, because that's the way I chose to work. And I chose to do so many films, and in a good way. I'm not complaining about that period in my life at all. I'm very happy that I went through that experience and that process. But I also feel like today I'm in a position where I can choose to start a film when I want to start a film. Right. I think we're both in that space today, where today we're not working based on other people's schedules. I think you reach a point when you're not now working to suit other people's schedules. You start a film when you want to start a film.
You work for yourself, and you say, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
This is what I'll do.
So I can see that in the last 3 years, in the last 4 years, I can feel like suddenly from being threatened to say, well, if you don't make the dates available, we're going to have to drop you from the movie. Today I'm in a position where I can be like, then okay, because I don't want to be threatened by, you have to, because I think it's important to be physically, mentally, emotionally, and just enjoy the process. I think you enjoy the process more when you can do 1, maybe 2 films at a time. But more than that, you miss out on the journey with those people. Because like you said, say when you did Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, you would have also enjoyed your evenings after pack up. You kind of become family. And while you were multitasking, you probably missed out on those opportunities. Whereas now you can actually spend time with those people and together really make a solid.
And I love the fact that today there's a team working with you. It's not just a secretary and then, you have some random person who's designing for you and stuff like that. It's like everything is planned. The fact that the scripts are planned, the looks are planned.
Yeah.
Like we just had to go we just flowed, when we were working like that, because sometimes you see it in the movies. Of course, it was a bad time for fashion anyways, but even through that, sometimes you see a little bit of continuity jerks here and there, and you say, oh my God, this was not.
Did you ever take your own clothes?
Was that? Yes, we did that too. Yeah, something that somebody bought and I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'll wear something really
My
simple.
own.
Yeah, I just don't mind just wearing a chiffon sari in this, but I don't want to wear anything else. So yes, we did do that. But today I think it's wonderful, isn't it, to have that whole paraphernalia working for you.
So I think it allows you to focus on what you really need to do.
Yes.
I think there was a time when, and I started off when I had an agent, but we didn't have this whole culture of stylist, and today you don't see actors without that team. You have that basic hair, makeup, stylist, agent, manager, trainer. You know, like you were saying, you have that whole entourage. And I can only think of it as a good thing, because that allows you as an actor today to just focus on what you have to do, which is what you do in front of the camera, and that's it. Otherwise, there's so many other distractions. You're like, you know, thinking about your hair, you're thinking about your makeup, you're thinking about what you have to wear, and that's not what you should be thinking about. You should only be thinking about your lines and your performance.
There's so much pressure nowadays. There was a time, I mean, when I started working, there was no one at the airport to click you, you know, getting onto some flight. We could be in oiled hair and, you know, care less about it and just walk wherever we wanted. But today, there are photographers everywhere. They're lurking at the airport. You come out of a movie and I'm like, oh my God, where did this guy come from? So you have to be dressed, you have to look good. So isn't that a lot of pressure, you know, all the time, to look good, to be dressed? And
for me, more than that, it's the fact, it's this whole camera, videos and cameras and things that I think people have access to today. It's earlier, I think you would just stand the mobile phones.
It's not just photographers; it's people on the flight.
I understand the mobile. I understand the photographers. I completely understand that. That's their job. But I feel like yesterday, I got off. You know, I flew in from Bangalore and I was exhausted, so I fell asleep on the flight. And I woke up and I'd not even barely opened my eyes, and the air hostess comes and, ma'am, can I get a picture with you? You don't want to say no, but at the same time you're like, I've just woken up, like, do you really want to take a, and it's night, so I'm not like, I'm going to wear my sunglasses.
Some people do that though, and I think it's quite clever.
So, yeah, I mean, there's taking pictures with people, and then
the thing where I was sleeping in the flight.
That's the worst.
I was sleeping, and there's someone trying to click a picture of me sleeping, and I don't know whether my mouth was open or I was like, you know, and someone was trying to click, and there was someone sitting. I mean, my manager sitting next to me and said, "Excuse me, I mean, she's sleeping. Have some, you know, thing." But
so it's. I mean, I think that part of it is tough. Honestly, it's not the fan engagement. It's not meeting with your fans. It's not. You know, it's not about taking that one moment to give them that time, but the fact that there's nothing that's private anymore. Everything is, you know, earlier, at least on an aircraft, you would have, you know, okay, chalo, you're on a flight and you have that time, but I think today it's just become everything. I think the minute you step out of your door, everything's become public. Of course, I think everyone has a different approach to it. I think some people get wound up by it, some people get stressed out, some people really enjoy it. So I think it depends on individual to individual what they make of that situation, but it's tough.
Yeah,
it's definitely tough.
But I guess, you know, people love you, and that's what you gather from it. And of course, when fans want a picture, sometimes you have to say no, but you say it politely, very sweetly, and they understand. And sometimes you can do it, and so you kind of say yes, and it's all good and hunky-dory, right?
As long as we're not sleeping with our mouths open.
That would be bad. When I started working, I did my first film, Abode, didn't do very well, but somehow I got hooked to acting. I'd never thought I'd be an actress. So then I started working in films, and I did a few films, and somehow I kept feeling I'm not getting my groove, it's not me. And then suddenly Tezab happened, where I kind of discovered myself suddenly. I said, this is my space. You know, when there was Ek Do Teen, and there were scenes in the movie that were very alien to the way I was brought up, and it was very different the way I'm talking to my dad in the movie, and the whole relationship with Munna, the lover, and you know, my own dad trying to use me as a golden goose and stuff like that. So it was very hard, and I think it just made me do a better job, because it was very challenging, and I had a very patient and a very good director, N. Chandra, and suddenly it was like, things happened for me in that movie and something just broke. And that's when Tezab became popular, and I walked out one day. When it released here, I was not here, I was abroad. I came back at the airport, some little kids were there, the ones who kind of come and wipe your car and that kind. And they're like, one of them said, I think I know who she is and all. So they came to me for an autograph, and I signed Madhuri Dixit. But I guess they read the M and it's Dekh, maine bola tha na, Moini, Moini. So that was the first flush of recognition. But did you go through a similar thing where you felt that while you were working, and because I saw you in Om Shanti Om, and I just loved you in that movie, and I thought you were so beautiful, great, and people always love women who have a kind of an old world charm also, which I felt you had in that. And then suddenly there was a phase, and then you came into your own.
Yeah.
So would you like to?
I think as far as being recognized in my case is concerned, I think it literally happened overnight, because I had switched from being a model to an actor, and then I'd worked with Farah in Om Shanti Om, and they were like, we're doing the premiere in London. So I said, oh great, let's all go to London. So we're going to London. We went to London, the premiere happened, there were thousands of people. I was doing this whole red carpet thing again, and kind of reliving what had happened in the movie already, where I was walking down and my hand just went up and I started doing this. And all of that was fine, because I was like, okay, these people have come for the premiere, obviously they're going to scream and shout and cheer and whatever. My life changed overnight, because we flew back to India the next day. And as soon as we landed, right at immigration is when I realized that things had changed. Just the way they were treating me, just the way I was escorted through immigration, the way they looked at my passport and looked back at me, it was literally overnight. So, yeah.
But after that you did a
and
few
then
films,
after that, yes. So Om Shanti Om was, I think, a dream debut for me. And I couldn't have asked for a better launch, because I think I was presented in such an amazing way that, I mean, you can only dream of it. And the fact that not only was it such a huge platform, but the fact that I had a double role. And I had, like you said, the old world charm, as well as, playing the slightly younger, more modern, relatable, whatever character. And every aspect of my performance was taken care of, whether it was the way I delivered my lines, whether it was my costume, my hair. Farah took care of every single detail. And then, after the film released, I just assumed that that's just the way it's always going to be. I didn't think that after this I'm going to just be on my own and have to make my own decisions. And so I think that's the kind of journey. I'm happy I went through that journey, because I made certain choices, again, based on instinct, but I don't think I took care of myself, because I assumed that it will happen the way it did in my first film, but that didn't happen. And I didn't realize that if that doesn't happen organically, I need to start taking care of certain things. And in the way I was presented, or in the way that I performed. And I think I went through those couple of films to actually, go through that experience. Those films didn't do too much for my career. And I think that's when I realized that I think it was a good experience for me to go through that, to learn. And you're right, that's when I came into my own. I think that's when I realized.
Think, what I feel, I don't know, you tell me whether it's right, but with Cocktail, I thought.
Yeah.
That's when, it hit you, and you kind of came into your own, and, you created a space which was you. Yeah. And from there it was just beautiful. I think it just happened. I was doing these films back to back. I think what also happened is that I got caught up with this perception of what heroines and actors and actresses should be like. Right. There is a perception that you have to conduct yourself a certain way, speak a certain way, do certain things, not do certain things, and I got caught up with that because I didn't know any better. I come from a sports family, and everything that I've learned today, or that I've become today, has been through all the right and wrong things that I've done, all the mistakes that I've made. And I think that's when I realized that, one second, why am I felt stuck. I felt
I was in a box. I felt like I wasn't being able to breathe. I felt like I wasn't being able to be myself. And I think Cocktail as a character gave me that opportunity. I think it gave me that opportunity to kind of just completely
break free,
let go, just be the person that I want to be. And I think then everything changed. So that was a great learning experience for me, to just realize that eventually you have to just be yourself. You cannot copy. You can have idols and you can have people that you look up to and people whose work you admire, but eventually how do you get the best of all of them, but at the same time not forget who you are
and bring your own
and
personality
bring yourself
and
to everything that you do.
Yes, I completely agree.
Were your parents supportive of your decision?
Yes, they were, and which is kind of bizarre, because my mom comes from a very orthodox family, and we had a very funny experience when I decided that movies was what I wanted to do. My whole family is very into academics, and you should complete your studies, don't break that, do something, and then if you want to do it like a hobby, you can do it. So when I decided that this is what I want to do, we had a big meeting in the house, and really, I mean, we wanted to think of it in a very practical and pragmatic way. And so we decided that my mom's family is the most orthodox, and maybe we should ask them if it's okay to be in films. And so we did that. And the funny thing was, my great grandmother was still alive at that time, so we decided to talk to her because she's the oldest. And we were flabbergasted when she came back saying, why not? If she has the talent, she'll make it. This was her statement. And we were like, oh my God, she really said that? Because when my mom wanted to learn dancing when she was little, she was told that people from good families don't dance. So we will teach you singing, but you're not going to dance ever. And that's when she thought to herself, when I have my daughters, I'm going to teach them to dance. So so that's how we started learning dancing. But I thought it was very nice, and it's great to have their support. It's great to have them in your corner, because when you don't, you miss out on a lot of support, a lot of cheering you on, and those kind of things. And I'm so glad that they did that they supported me throughout. My mom, my dad, they were always with me. My mom used to travel with me. She never thought of her own life, saying that, oh, I have a life too, which I need to lead, so I cannot come with you. But she was always with me. And right, like you said, how did I go through those years when I was just working all the time? It's because of her. It's because of them. Because they were always the ones who, brought sanity back to me. They brought me back to earth. It was like, hey, hold on, you might be a star there, but you still haven't cleaned your room.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So that's how they have always brought me up. And for me, those values were very important.
Yeah.
And so when I also was, at the top of my career, all that, one of the dreams was to have a family, to have a husband, children, all that. And people asked me, how did it feel when you were in Denver? I said, I was living my dream. It was part of my dream, and I was living it when I was there. But were your parents supportive? Did they?
Very, very, yeah. They were very supportive. They've, I mean, for them it was, if this is what you're passionate about, and if this is what, this is what you want to do, and we'll support you wholeheartedly. Of course, they didn't have enough knowledge about the industry, which is why the first thing they wanted to do was to make sure I had an agent who would then be able to help us with those professional decisions, contracts, decisions, money, all of those things, because we had never done all of this before. But that doesn't mean that they were not supportive. They were always very, very supportive. In fact, I remember when I wanted to do this, and you have to get a portfolio done to like send out your pictures, and I told my mother, I said, can I please borrow 10,000 rupees from you, and I promise you one day I'll give it back.
Oh, that's so
and I did, because I feel like they trusted in me and they invested. It was a lot of money for us at that time, and they trusted me and gave me that money and said, of course, if this is what you want to do. And I remember that day when I gave it back, and I said thank you, because that's your investing, that's your work. But they've always been very supportive, and even with my sister, who's 5 years younger than me, she's a professional golfer, and very unusual for the kind of families that we come from, because even for my father to be a professional sportsman was completely unheard of. We come from a family, again, like you said, where everyone's, double graduates and doctors and everyone's studying in the US, and everyone's a doctor or a lawyer. And for my father was the first one in the family to, like, who plays professional sports? Like, you can play it as a hobby, but you're not going to make any money out of it. And what is this? But he did. His father encouraged him. His father was, very, very supportive. There were no badminton courts at that time. He used to go to a marriage hall in Malleshwaram, in an area called Malleshwaram in Bangalore. Marriage halls were the only places that had a really high ceiling. He used that as his space to practice. And the way and this I realized, he told me recently, there used to be these bars, like, for example, like this. And to actually, like, perfect his game, he would actually make sure that the shuttlecock went through exactly like one of those holes that were there, and that's how he perfected his game. So really, I think if you're passionate about something, you will find a way to do what you want to do and to achieve what you want to achieve.
True. Where sports is concerned, one of the cricketers was telling me that when he was getting married, he met the father-in-law for the first time. He wanted to marry his daughter, and he said, the father asked, "अच्छा करते क्या हो?" तो बोले, "जी मैं क्रिकेट खेलता हूँ." बोलता हाँ वो ठीक है, वो बात तो अलग है, लेकिन करते क्या हो? So that was the attitude to sports at that time, or even being in the movies, or even singing for that matter. As
anything creative was just not considered a profession.
True. So we are lucky that our parents did support us, and we were there for us.
I think it helps to walk onto set or to go to work and know that you're not fighting. There's enough battles you're already fighting.
Exactly.
It's nice to know that when you go back home, you have people who support you, who encourage you, who give you a good meal, tuck you into bed, and you know that you can sleep peacefully.
You go back to peace.
Yes.
And tranquility, and a kind of a down to earth, like just affection, love. And that's a great thing to have.
Yes.
When you go back to that.
I don't think at home we're stars. I think at home we are Deepika and Madhuri.
Yes, absolutely.
There's just no scope or space to be anything other than the daughters that we are, I think.
But I have to tell you, when I had my reception, my marriage reception here in Mumbai in December, my cousins, of course, they were all youngsters, and they were all invited, and there were so many stars coming and so many other people coming, and I sat with them and I said, "Look here, do not humiliate me. You're not going to pick on any actor. You're not going to have pictures with them. Please let them be, because I know how it is when we go to marriages, and there's chaos and people want pictures." I said, "Please, please, please, keep my respect and just don't do that." So most of the cousins were like, very, they kind of nodded very reluctantly. But then one cousin stood up and he said, "I will agree with you on everything, but if Mr. Amitabh Bachchan turns up, there is no stopping us."
And did he?
What's that?
Did he?
I think he must have got a little harassed.
My own father has had the most massive crush. I told him today, I said, "I'm doing this thing, do you want to come?" He's like, "No." So I don't know if I'm sure maybe I've mentioned this to you before, but he's always been like doing his own thing, playing badminton, children, wife, And he has this whole routine of like waking up in the morning, taking the newspapers to the loo, coffee, etc., etc. The day you announced, or rather the media got to know that you were getting married.
No, I announced I got married.
Something.
Yeah.
You got married, or you
November, I
announced you were
remember,
getting married.
and it's big news that she's got married. That's it.
He locked himself up in the bathroom. Until today, it's like a running joke in the family. He was so shattered. Like, he came out and you could actually see he was like he had these bags under his eyes. My mother was like, "Were you crying in the loo or what?" But he's never been like, of course he respects everyone, but he's been your biggest fan. So when you got married, he was the most heartbroken. And I told him, I said, "Why don't you come today?" He said, "No." I think he'd be tongue-tied.
Yeah, in my family, I don't think, while we were growing up, we didn't watch very many films. There was no one who was like starstruck or anything of that sort, because we all believed that, everybody is human and everybody, like my husband says, everybody wears their pants one leg at a time, right? There's no other way to wear it. So we are just the same, basically. And so, also because before my career started, my siblings had already started moving to the US. One of my sisters left first, then my brother, then my other sister in '89. So really, like, they were not here when my career was actually happening. They used to visit once in a while, but that was about it. So.
I think the only difference is, though, I think after you start working with people for a while, you start addressing them by first name. And when you go back and I kind of repeat a story to my parents, for example, so I was like, Manish said this and then Karan said this and, Madhuri was like, and they're like, 1 second. At the end of the conversation, they're like, who Manish? Who Karan? I'm like, Manish Malhotra, Karan Johar. So it's like, so just that. It's, I think we start getting familiar because for us, they're colleagues at the end of the day, but for them, they're still like, oh, so now they're getting used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's too much good to worry about. I think after a point you do realize that being an actor comes with certain kinds of responsibilities, I think, and I mean that shouldn't stop you from being the person that you want to be, but at the same time I mean I think you're kind of prepared for it, or even if you're not prepared for it initially, somewhere down the line I think you start accepting it. It becomes a part of your life. It becomes a part of your, the way you are, the way you conduct yourself, the way. So I don't look at it as a negative thing. I'm pretty okay with, because I think there's just too much love, there's too much positivity, and there's too much. And the basic thing of being an actor, which is the time that you spend in front of the camera between action and cut, that's just priceless. So you're willing to go through anything to be able to experience those moments.
And also I feel, when I started, there were a lot of people who told me that you can never be an actress, go home, that kind of a thing. And for me, I was like, I want to do something that nobody can tell me what to do or what not to do. And I worked very hard and I proved myself. And somewhere I felt, you cannot please everyone.
Yeah.
There's some people who are going to like you, some people who are just not going to like you.
True.
You cannot please everyone. But you do have the power to influence people.
Yes.
You do have an audience who's ready to listen to you. And because of your work, because of your profession, you have made that place for yourself where they look up to you.
Right.
And why not use that power to do good?
Absolutely.
So that's how I joined UNICEF, and I'm their child rights advocate. I work with women and children. All this because I know that there are people who are ready to listen, who would be influenced by what I say, and if you can use that to do something good. I think even if you change one person's mind,
absolutely,
it's a lot for me.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's you realize that over a period of time, you realize, and not just in what we do off screen, but I think even on screen as well. Sometimes you get really lucky and fortunate to be a part of movies and characters that really allow you to really influence and touch people's lives, and I think that kind of then goes offline and off screen as well.
Yes, because they're ready to believe you.
And I think the most amazing part is that after a point, they're with you on that entire journey. It's not just the highs, but they're with you on the lows as well.
I heard you're also doing, you have a foundation.
Yes, for mental health, which I set up. It's not even been a year. We launched the foundation in October. But it was exactly that. I felt like through the work that I've done, if I'm able to influence and touch people's lives, that's precisely the reason I came out with my struggle with depression, because I felt like if I can share my story with people, tell them what I've been through, tell them how I overcame it, and most importantly tell people that there's hope, because for most people who are struggling and suffering, you kind of give up, you feel like this is the end, you feel like there is no hope. And so I wanted to tell people that, that I have survived and that there is hope. And the foundation works at exactly that. It works towards removing the stigma from mental health,
Exactly,
mental illness, and encouraging people to seek help, encouraging people and telling them that it's okay if you're not feeling well. The same way we have physical symptoms,
Yes.
Mental illness is something you cannot see, but it's equally or more harmful or dangerous. It's just that because you can't see it and there are no physical signs or symptoms, we're like, oh, it's okay, you'll be fine. We kind of brush it off. So that's what the foundation is working towards, encouraging people to speak up, to seek help, and most importantly, I think in our country right now, we need to focus on removing the stigma from mental illness.
Exactly, and that's what you've done when you came out, because you shattered that stigma. You said you could have issues like this, you could still be successful.
Yeah.
You could do what you want to do. It's not as if something's gone wrong and nothing's going to work. There is a tomorrow, and if you deal with this now, you can have a successful life. And really, I think people owe it to you, and they should thank you for doing that.
Thank you. But what about the work that you are doing for the girl child?
Well, yes, we are doing a lot for the girl child. I was part of Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, because I think in India, education is very, very necessary, not only for the girls, but also for the boys. Both have to be educated. The girls, because somehow they think they are second class citizens. They're brought up to believe in that.
That they stand second.
A mother shows disparity between a girl and a boy. She will give boy the better nutrition, and she'll say, "Tum to parai ho, tum to jaane wali ho ek din. So one roti is enough for you. You should just." But that's not how it should be. They should be on equal footing, and only through education, because it's changing a mindset, which is very, very important and very difficult to do.
Right.
So we have to chip away at it, one brick at a time, one little piece at a time.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen overnight. But if each one of us who has the power to talk about it, keeps talking about it, keeps moving ahead, I think you will manage to change a whole generation.
Change is possible.
Because first you will bring about the change of them being educated. Secondly, you are talking about it all the time, which makes them feel that, yes, I have these rights and I'm entitled to them, So that entitlement, you make them feel that you are an important part of the society. When you make films, it's for entertainment, right? It's for entertaining people. So there are all kinds of films that are going to be made, which people, whoever makes the film thinks, oh, this is entertaining and I'm going to make this. But by and large, I feel that roles of women in films are changing. And I think I was fortunate enough that I got good roles when I was working, like Beta or Adil or Tezab or any Mrityuda and Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. So I was fortunate that I got these kind of roles and I could portray them on screen. But I think as the generation changes, as the thinking changes, mindsets change. And today, I remember when I was 28, they were hounding me when I was going to get married. The press and everyone. When is she going to get married? They're asking other people, interviews. When do you think Madhuri should get married? And I'm like, leave me alone. I'll get married when I want to.
Right.
But those are the kind of pressures that are put not only just on film stars. I think even in
women
in general.
Yeah.
But I think films are entertainment, and some films are made for sending a message. Some films are made keeping in mind that this is the theme of the film I'm going to talk about. Like Piku, say a grandfather and his granddaughter, and the relationship they share. Or there are films that are just made like for mindless entertainment.
Correct.
So you can't really pinpoint and say industry is responsible to do this, because it's an entertainment industry. So you will find all kind of films being made.
I do think that's changing. I do feel like the kind of films that we're making, and not to say that they weren't made.
Yes.
Mother India is, I think, a classic example of the fact that women had some of the films that you've done, very, very strong and powerful roles. I think it also depends on the individual and what kind of films they choose to be a part of. But yes, I think whether it's Bajirao, whether it's Piku, I think I've been very fortunate to be a part of films, or even Chennai Express for that matter, which was an out-and-out commercial film, so to speak. But a very, very solid, solid part. As far as men and women are concerned, I think the only thing I'd like to say is that I think somewhere down the line in the last couple of months, I think we've really lost the understanding of what feminism truly is. I think what it is and what it should be versus what we believe or what we are practicing are two completely different things. So I mean, I think that's my only thought on you know, whether it's equality, whether it's, and it's not just in the film industry. I see it everywhere. And I mean, if you talk about the industry, it's not just in the Indian film industry. You see it in Hollywood as well. And if you talk about, you know, it's not just in our film industry. You see it in the corporate world. You see it, you know, athletes face it all the time. So it exists everywhere. I just feel from our point of view, it's definitely headed in the right direction.
Yes,
whether
absolutely.
it's, you know, whether it's the kind of roles.
Also, sensibilities of the new directors
Are changing. Whether it's, you know, the paycheck. I think all of these things are definitely headed in the right direction. I'm not one to sit and say, oh, like it's, you know, it's so bad and it shouldn't be like this. And, you know, I think one should always have a very positive approach
to it.
Like I said,
one
thing at a time. It's so ingrained and so embedded in our culture for so many years, globally, not just in India, that it is, you know, it is going to take a long time. But the way I look at it is that we're at least definitely headed in the right direction. Feminism is about equality. And I think we need to fight for or stand for being equals. I think there's a lot of times where there's a feeling that we need to be one up on each other, and I think that's where we're going wrong.
I think equal opportunities for
Equal
everyone.
opportunity.
You should not be rejected just because you're a woman.
Exactly.
And they think it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
You should get equal opportunities just like the men get. And that's about it. I mean, you have to prove yourself finally. You have to be professional. You have to be good at what you do.
Yeah.
And those things are going to fall in place.
Absolutely.
But if you don't get the opportunity to do that, then, you know, how are you going to prove it?
Exactly. So I think just, although I think it's yeah, I think it's about just, you know, like you said, the right opportunity and being equals and not being, you know, not being, what's the right word?
Sidelined or, you know.
Yeah, not being given the opportunity because you're a woman. So I think as long as the opportunities are equal, as long as you don't walk into a room feeling like, oh, am I going to get this today because I'm a woman? You know, as long as you feel like you're getting what you get, whether it's your paycheck or whether it's the opportunities based on your talent and not for any other reason.
Yes.
My own father has had the most massive crush. I told him today, I said, I'm doing this thing, do you want to come? He's like, the day you announced, or rather the media got to know that you were getting married, he locked himself up in the bathroom. Until today, it's like a running joke in the family. He was so shattered, like he came out and you could actually see, he was like he had these bags under his eyes. My mother was like, oh, were you crying in the loo or what?